Good morning, everybody. David McLeod here from Belmont, California. You're one of your Soul Talk guys, and welcome to Life Matters TV. Today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic. It's all about the difference between thinking and feeling, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that as always. But first, most importantly, I want to introduce my partner and co-host, Tommy Stoffel. Good morning, Tommy. How are you doing?
Hey, doing great, David. Thank you, and good day, and good night, and hello, everybody out there around the planet. Thanks, David. Today's topic is going to be an interesting one, to say the least, because it's our thinker that we're talking through sometimes, but we're going to be talking about the feelings, and we'll see how this goes. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, Tommy, but one thing I've noticed in my life is, especially when I was pretty young, I kind of got the message that my feelings could make other people uncomfortable, and when they got uncomfortable, they projected their discomfort onto me, and that kind of gave me the idea that I was supposed to be quiet, shut down my feelings, not express them, that kind of stuff. That was the message that I was receiving, and I certainly accommodated that to some extent in my life. But as I got older, what I discovered was all those leftover feelings that I hadn't dealt with, well, they kind of hung around in my body because they didn't really know how to get out, and they did all kinds of weird stuff to me, and eventually they did come out, and they came out in ways that really did not serve me, and all of this because I was learning by the messages that were given to me that I was supposed to, suppress them, and that I could talk about them, but I wasn't allowed to feel them. I could think about them, but I wasn't allowed to feel them. And I think that's a very, very dangerous teaching. And I know that we're not maybe doing as bad now in our world as we used to, but I think it's still a pretty serious problem, and I think it's something that we need to fix.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm gonna and David, that's one way that it happens to us, right? You're not allowed to express, so stuff it, and then later it explodes like a bomb, or something goes off later in life. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story as my childhood, because mine happened a little bit differently. I had a situation in my life, a specific situation, where something hurt me so bad from a love standpoint that I just shut down my lover. I just shut down my heart, and I didn't know I was doing it at the time. Mm-hmm. But I just shut down. I said, I'm never going to feel that kind of pain again. Boom, walls went up, shields came up, whatever metaphor you want to use.
What was this experience that you're talking about?
And my dog died.
Oh my God!
My dog died when I was 12 years old, and I loved that thing unconditionally. There was nothing I wouldn't. It was my life for 5 years of my life. Half of my life, this dog and I were inseparable. And it got killed by a bus. And the day that happened, I said, I'm never feeling this pain again. Bam! There was no more love coming out of Tommy for a long time.
That's right, yeah.
And what that did too, what I only realized much later in life, was that without my energy sensor, I'm doing this with my heart, right? Without my heart kind of working anymore, I had to compensate for what that heart used to do and feel and sense, what my energy used to sense and feel around me, by thinking about everything all the time. And my thinker had to go into overload and overwork to always be considering and thinking and wondering and pondering and all these things that my brain isn't really designed to do, and I got into mental overload.
Yeah, right.
So, different situation, right? Yours, sometimes we stuff it and explode. In my case, I compensated for overthinking, and it led me to a breakdown.
Right. Well, and there's something really important in what you said that I don't know. I certainly caught it. Maybe other people did as well. But I noticed that for myself, I was particularly encouraged to hide my fear and my sadness. Those were two feelings that the adults in my life weren't comfortable with. And I was always being told, oh, there's nothing to be afraid of, or you've got nothing to cry about, or do you want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. I would hear stuff like that, And but what I noticed in trying to shut down those two feelings alone, and any of the associated energies that were coming with those, I was also shutting down the feelings that I liked, like my joy, for example. the love that I would have for other people, because it's pretty difficult to just shut down one little tiny channel of your feelings. You pretty much shut down the whole thing, and we do this unconsciously. So that was a price I paid. It sounds like you paid a similar price in your situation.
Yeah, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Somewhere in our life, or somewhere in the history of humankind, our society forgot how to express and deal with emotions. Because my parents didn't know how, and it wasn't their fault. Their parents didn't teach them how, and nobody taught us, what it is to enjoy and to wallow, to feel them when they're sad and to express, and to enjoy them when they're up. And we shut down a major component of being a human being. A major, we're thinking beings, but we're also emotional beings. And as far as I can see, our society is pretty heavy on teaching us how to think and how to fill our brain with stuff, but it's lost the art of expression. It's lost a lot of the art of how to feel and how to use our emotions. And that's what we're getting down to right now. And that's what you and I have, we've able to kind of find that out by ourselves through searching and soul searching. And we're getting our emotional system back in order. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of the way things are going out there. It's still head heavy, and what we're doing is talking about opening up the heart more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a comment here from Rosa. She was just pointing out that there's a social conditioning aspect. Like men in the general context of our society, men are not supposed to cry, and girls are supposed to be sweet all the time. And, I think there's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot more conditioning that happens even beyond that, like, all the advertising and multimedia stuff, but how we're supposed to show up, how we're supposed to take this and take that in order to have this much of a better life and so on. And the messages are very, very confusing. And like it or not, our brains can't really process it all. And so it can be very, very frustrating, to say the least.
Well, frustrating and the Rosa, the conditioning word is brilliant. That we are conditioned, and when we're conditioned, because we don't know, we haven't been taught or we haven't been freed enough to feel, right? So we're conditioned on what to think, and we're conditioned how to feel. Mm-hmm. And when that veil is pulled over us and we're not aware of that going on, we're pretty much being, we're chained up and we're being guided around and led around by whatever the TV, the media, the priests, whoever is, guiding us and yanking our chains around, until we're not anymore, until we wake up for ourselves and we start to look how to heal this and how to get our half of our human being back into working order. Right.
Yeah. Well, you bring up another good point, and really that's about the ego mind. The ego mind is always trying to satisfy some belief and some need that it has, that it's supposed to be approved of, it's supposed to be liked, and all of these things. And the way we do that is by doing what everybody else wants us to do. And you also brought up the other point, you'll keep doing that until you don't do it anymore. And I contend that you'll keep doing it as long as you remain unconscious to the fact that you're doing it. And the only way to become conscious is to bring some awareness to the ego. It doesn't mean kill the ego, destroy the ego, shut down the ego. It just means bring awareness to it. The moment you bring awareness to it, it loses its power. And now you're the witness standing behind watching this thing, and you can say, oh, wow, look at how I'm thinking. Isn't that interesting? And that's where you're starting to connect more with your spiritual side, and that's where I think when you let your spirit start running the ship, and I think you called this taking back the mutiny sort of thing. I think you talked about that before. That's when things can start to improve.
Absolutely, and that's where things also get scary too, right? Because we've been going through life a certain way, believing certain things, conditioned, as so brilliantly put, and then we think, well, how do we get out of this? How do we start to tame that mind, or how do we start to release our emotional being, our spirit? And that gets really scary because it seems like too much. Mm-hmm. It seems like too much to try to handle all at once. And you and I do this every week. We talk about something, and we're talking about this. We're talking exactly about this. We're chunking away a bit of the brick of the wall. Pink Floyd, bricks on the wall. Yeah. We're taking bricks out of the wall, bit by bit, talking about different things we do, approval being one of them, and judgment being in others. You know, all these things we do. But that's the way we do it.
Right.
And there isn't like, I wish, you know, snap of the finger, the whole wall could come down and we can be brilliant, bright, spiritual human beings again. I'll keep wishing for that until I can do it. But in the meantime, it takes work, but understand that other people do it. David, you've done it, a lot of work. I've done a lot of work. I know a lot of people who have done work. So if you're doing the work, fantastic. And that's, you know, plugging in here and realizing that we can shift, we can get away from the conditioned, you know, human condition, and be ourselves again. So if you're doing the work, keep going. If you're new to this and just kind of getting introduced to this, don't let it scare you. As David said, when we start to turn and face that ego mind, it automatically, the witness in us has that intelligence to start taking care of things and start taking those bricks out of the wall.
Right. Yeah, that's really good, and I think that's very true. You know, and one of the things that I have learned for myself is, how do I know when I'm thinking my feelings rather than feeling them? And, you know, I actually sat and I thought about this today. Interestingly that I thought about it. I was looking at prior experiences and trying to understand, okay, when I am thinking my feelings, what's going on inside me? And I noticed that when I'm thinking my feelings, I have thoughts in my heads like, both of my heads, yeah. I have thoughts in my head like, I feel as if, I feel that. I am trying to pretend that I'm feeling something when really I'm just having a thought about those feelings. So I don't know, have you noticed that sort of thing for yourself?
Oh yeah, and this is where it gets real tricky, right? Because that's what we've been doing our whole lives. You know, I've been thinking my feelings since I was 12. Yeah. And to get back into trusting your feelings, and we sometimes use the word intuition.
Yeah.
To me, that word intuition is my true energy being. So what I've come to understand and come to feel is that I have a way of sensing things. I have a way of sensing situations and sensing things. And I say sensing, not thinking. And with that sensing, I'm moving my hands back and forth, because to me it's an energy thing. And energy maybe is a little too much of a parochial term, but it's feelings. So I feel things. And the way I've gotten back to it, and I still practice it because I have to, because I do the same thing you do. I'm thinking what I'm feeling, and I'm like, okay, how do I make sure I'm feeling what I'm feeling? And my friend Amy just said this 30 minutes ago. She goes, I go to my heart. I kind of get into my heart space, and I ask, and I try to feel how my heart feels. And for some of us, that's our biggest sensor. It's our biggest energy sensor. There is our heart area, our heart chakra. And that's where we can start to kind of get back into the habit and the trust of what we're feeling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And part of another part of this aspect is, even though you can be really clear that you're thinking about something when you use any of those phrases, I feel like, I feel as if, or I feel that, there are even more subtle things. For example, I might say something like, I am angry about, and then fill in the blank. Or I feel sad because. Or I worry that. Now I'm getting a little bit closer to an emotional sense in my sentence, but I'm still thinking about it. I'm not feeling it yet. So the reason I'm bringing these up is because I want people, and I want the viewers, and you folks out there, to just think about this. When you have those kinds of thoughts going through your head, you're probably trying to process your feelings by thinking about them. And so the question is, and Tommy brought up a really good point, how do you start feeling and let the thoughts go? And I think one of the things that you said, Tommy, had to do with going into the heart. And what I like to do is I like to just say, okay, in my heart. And then I think of, or I try to come up with words to describe that feeling. Is it warm? Is it cold? Is there a texture? Is it like fuzzy or smooth, or is it spiky? Does it have a vibration? Is it a high frequency thing or a low frequency thing? I'm not trying to think about it in terms of an actual thought. I'm trying to just help me process it and feel it. And then, what does it want my body to do? You know, that's really important too. And if I let my body just do that, obviously within reason, I don't want to be destroying any property or people or myself in the process. If I'm allowing myself to do that, then the energy can pass through me. And once it's passed through, then I can think about it if I really need to.
Yeah, getting down to the feeling. Yeah, you said it right. I do the same thing. Okay, if I had to, there's like the big decision I need to make or something I need to, I'll think through the words of it. At the same time, I'm paying a lot of attention to how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
How does this make me feel? Not what I'm thinking about it, not the thoughts that are popping off. The thinking part is, here's the situation I want to get an answer to, or I want to resolve. How does it make me feel? And I'm just going to feel, does it feel right? Does it feel not right? Does it feel good? Does it feel not good? Does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? And I kind of try to just kind of keep it very simple, almost black and whitish, of light or heavy, good or bad, and just try to sense in there. And sometimes it's gray, which means that the decision isn't all that important, perhaps. But yeah, getting into that feeling, and to me, it's taken a lot of work to quiet the noise in my head, so I can ignore it for a bit and sink in. And some people, I think, have taught me this too, that kind of take your consciousness and bring it down into your heart. Almost think from your heart is
right.
Way somebody's taught me this before. And settle in and try to feel how it feels. Get how an answer is going to feel.
Yeah.
Is that kind of along the lines of what you were explaining?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think for me personally, as I do that exercise and bring my awareness further out of my head and down in here, I notice that the thoughts just naturally tend to quiet down. It's not as if I have to say to my mind, shut up, so I can do this. It's just bringing my awareness to a different part of my body. And as I do that, and it's not just my heart either, it's my whole body. I feel sensations in my fingers and my feet, my legs, my butt, every part of my body, just to say, what is this feeling doing, and how is it trying to communicate to me? I even sometimes ask, does it have a message for me? Is it trying to tell me something? I mean, I think those are really important questions, and try to answer not from here, but from down here. As you said, think from the heart. I kind of like that phrase. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure I made that one up, but yeah, it's a matter of dropping in and feeling. And so we talk about intuition and we talk about finding truth, and this is where it is. And this is where my life has shifted so much in the last few years, is to really settle in and get in touch with how something makes me feel. Because that is, to me, I sometimes use this metaphor about a pilot and a co-pilot in an aircraft, and that I picture myself as an aircraft, and I have both a pilot and a co-pilot, and somewhere along the history of humankind, the co-pilot got the crazy idea that it could fly the plane, it could make all the direct decisions, it knew where we were going, it knew what buttons to push, and it said, I don't need the pilot, and it whacked the pilot on the head, girded it, blindfolded it, and tossed it somewhere in the back of the plane, all tied up. But that to me is my spirit. That to me is my commander. Absolutely. That to me is my connection, and I get information from that commander. I get information from that pilot through my feelings. I don't get it necessarily through my thinking brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great metaphor. I really like that.
So we have to go back there and realize that. And you said the witness, that the witness is the pilot. And as we wake up, as we become conscious that we've been conditioned, that's almost we've become kind of conditioned or conscious that our co-pilot has had a mutiny and is running the ship, and that we need to go back and untie your pilot, untie your consciousness, and wake up and bring that person, that entity or that part of yourself back into the cockpit, put them in their seat, and let them help with the strategic decisions and the long-range planning and the things that they're there to understand and the things that they're there to guide you with on your path.
Yeah, that's really great. And so if you're having a problem with this, if you're finding that you're trying to process your feelings through thinking, so what can you do? Well, we've already given you a couple of hints here. First off, you got to be aware that that's what you're doing. And you've got to be aware that, oh yeah, I'm trying to process all my feelings up here in my little brain, so I don't have to feel them down here in my body. You got to understand that that's what you're doing. That's the first piece. Now, you may have some difficulty even recognizing that. So one of the things you may ask yourself is, well, what am I thinking right now? What am I thinking right now? And it may be a judgment about yourself. You may be hearing some story, oh, I've got some bad feelings down in my gut, but I'm not allowed to feel them because such and such happened when I was however old, and I've learned that I'm not supposed to. Great. Take whatever it was you just found out and write it down. Get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper, because then you can process it later. Now listen some more. Are there any other thoughts up there that are keeping you from getting down into your body? Oh, feeling is bad. Good, write it down. Feeling is bad. Get it out of your head, onto the piece of paper. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Eventually, you're going to get to a place, well, you've heard all my thoughts. I haven't got any more left. Go ahead, feel what you want to feel. That's kind of what happens. And then just bring your awareness down into your body. Bring your awareness down into your body and just allow yourself to feel. And feel means a couple of things. You know, understanding and processing the energy of the emotion, but also noticing the sensations in your body. Those are really important pieces. So if you can do those two things, or I guess three things, you're well on your way to feeling your feelings rather than thinking them.
Yeah, that was brilliant, David. Thank you for sharing that. And the thing, I'm like, my head is going, and I'm pretending my head is, you know, conditioned still, and I'm thinking, what's the head going to say? The head's going to say, oh, I don't want to feel everything. Some of those feelings suck.
Yeah.
Some of those feelings hurt. Some of those feelings aren't good. All right. I'm not going to argue with you. Some of the feelings, when you get back into being an emotional being as part of being a human being, some of the feelings are nice. Some of them are, you know, middle of the road, and some do hurt. Yeah. But that's part of being a human being. And I'm gonna much rather have the highs that I can have of feeling great and feeling love and feeling, you know, the beauty and feeling the niceness. And then once in a while, you know, like you lose somebody in your life, somebody dies, it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna feel it, but you're gonna feel it. And then after a while, that, you know, it's not going to ruin your life, and it's not going to grip onto your life, because you haven't anchored it in thoughts anymore. You haven't decided to toss it in the bag and hang on to it anymore. Part of this whole game of being an emotional being is to have them and to let them go. To have them and to let them go. It's a present moment experience as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a roller coaster, but yeah, it's a roller coaster. That's part of being alive. And having the good ones along with the ones that hurt is part of being a human being. Don't be afraid of it. The feelings aren't going to hurt you. It's hanging on to the feelings. It's hanging on to the memories of the feelings that hurt you. Yep. That's what weighs us down and causes harm.
Yeah, that's
Holy
really
crap. Pretty
no
funny.
problem, don't worry about it.
Just started right outside my window, a jackhammer. All right. So go to work.
Go ahead and turn them off. What you were saying there, I think there's really something very important, and I wanted to just suggest, I was thinking about unpleasant feelings in the context of a full body massage. And what I noticed for me is, like, when I first started going for deep tissue full body massage, man, it hurt like hell. It hurt like hell. My body was not used to having that. And yet, after the massage was over, I noticed how great I felt. My body felt limber and loose. So 2 weeks later, I go for another massage. It still hurts, but not quite as much as it did the time before. So there is absolutely a practice pattern that has to take place here. And in doing that, then you get over that intense pain, and maybe it's just getting used to it or something. Maybe it's always the same intensity, but you're just, okay, I'm used to it. I don't know. But in any event, the intensity seems to be less and less and less. And eventually, you get to the place where you look forward to feeling your feelings and just allowing them to pass through. You've muted yourself.
David, that's a beautiful metaphor, and the jackhammer is going right now. I don't know if you can hear me over it.
I can hear you.
But But yeah, the whole thing of being okay to feel the feelings, and I love that metaphor of, you're right, at first it may feel like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this feeling I'm feeling? But
Exactly.
it's, again, just part of being a human, and you'll get into it, and it'll become part of being a natural human being again. And
Yeah.
I tell you, it's the benefit you get out of having your pilot back your commander back in the pilot seat, and having your emotional system back in working order. Even if once in a while you're going to feel harsh feelings or feel things that hurt, it's much better way of living than just always living from the head and having no emotional system going at all. I can just tell you that from experience. It's a
Yeah.
much more
Absolutely.
real life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I what I've learned is that if you don't feel your feelings, then what happens is you actually repress them. And in the words of one of my teachers, Hugh Dalconzo, whatever you repress, you get to keep. In a very real sense, because unfortunately the way you keep those feelings is to store them in the tissues of your body. And the problem is that those feelings get pretty solidly entangled in the cells of your body, and the longer they're left there, the harder it is to release them. The other problem is that no matter how hard you try to keep those old feelings locked up, eventually they will come out in ways that you may not like. And so the real question comes down to this. Do you want to avoid a relatively small amount of pain right now and then pay a huge price down the road? I mean, because that's really what's going to be happening here.
Between you saying such beautiful words and the jackhammer just clearing out my head, I'm feeling at peace, man. Um, Oh, thank you. Should we think about wrapping up a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We've got about 3 minutes left here. So do you want to just talk about next week?
Yeah, absolutely. So next week is our 40th show. Can't believe we're on 40 consecutive Fridays that we've been doing the show. Thank you all for watching, either live or on the recording. At show 20, we did something called a free-for-all, where we asked you guys to send in questions, send in things that you're looking for answers for, or help with, or ideas you're having, or just concepts that you want to explore deeper. And we're doing that again next week. So last time you guys flooded us with a bunch of great questions, and we answered a bunch of them live on the air. We're going to do that again next week. And then, and so go ahead and send in your questions. Like, Tommy, why is a jackhammer always going in your front yard when you're doing a show? And we're going to answer them next week and have some fun doing that. So next week's show will be an hour long. Please join us and send in your questions in the meantime.
Yeah,
David,
right.
what else do we have going on in the background? You've got all sorts of great infrastructure going now. Why don't you tell people about our website and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah, well, so folks, we've been doing this, as Tommy said, for 39 consecutive weeks. Next week's going to be our 40th. We're really excited. As you can tell, we're pretty dynamic guys. We are the Soul Talk Guys. And you can follow us on Twitter at that handle, by the way, Soul Talk Guys. The other thing is we have a website. It's called Life Matters TV, and that's life-matters-tv.com. And we would love to have you come check out our site, check out some of our posts, leave comments there, help us to spread the word of what we're doing. Because, I mean, this is really, I think, very important stuff, raising the consciousness of the planet. So there's that, and I think that's all I really had to say for now. Tommy, is there anything else?
No, I'll just say goodbye for now, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. All the best to you, and make sure your life matters. Bye-bye.